July 11th, and it's 7:01, and I'm calling the regular Beach Haven meeting to order. And we'll start the flag salute, and we have Mr. Cactus leading it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Caxton.
Here.
Mr. Keeler. Mr. Maskell. Mr. White.
Here.
Mayor Davis.
Here. Okay, so we'll start with the manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll begin with the Treasurer's report for the month of June 2016. Cash receipts in the current fund for the period June 1st to June 30th were $657,700.92. Cash balance in current fund as of this period totaled $9,144,214.28. Cash balance in water utility account as of June 30th, 2016 was $2,058,828.82, submitted by our treasurer, Shari Buller. Moving on to department reports. I've gotten a number of calls over the last few weeks concerning final work in terms of the construction of the dune walkovers. We've had these Army Corps of Engineers has had their subcontractor working out there for a while now, Agate. They did temporarily stop doing some of the construction of the rail fencing. I believe there's about 6 blocks they still have to do that for. Reason being, we finally, or I should say the Army Corps, the state, and Agates finally did successfully negotiate a additional contract to complete what we term the extensions, because anybody that has a longer walk from the street to the dune will find that there was an area where they stopped with the hard pack and there was the soft sand. That soft sand, particularly for those that may be challenged in their walking abilities, was a little difficult. For somehow the Army Corps left that out of their original contract. We had done some additional work for them in order for them to do this. Why it took so long to get that additional contract approved is anybody's guess, but it is. They have a couple of crews out there right now working on that. And last report I had as of Friday afternoon was that they estimate that it'll take another 2 weeks to wrap up everything in Beach Haven, and then they'll be moving on elsewhere. So that work is just about done. We also sent the notice to the newspaper. We are going to be accepting bids for the construction of the new 2-story municipal building on Tuesday, August 9th at 1 p.m. This is a rebid of the project. As I indicated in an earlier monthly report, the bids had come in significantly higher than what our original budget estimate was, which necessitated us going back and consulting with the architect and his staff and coming up a little bit different look to the interior of the building to hopefully cut those additional costs and get it within budget. A pre-bid meeting will be held on July 29th at 10 a.m., which would be invited all interested bidders to participate. First beach badge sale report of the season. Sales have been pretty much what we would expect. As of July 7th, we had taken in $343,545. We are a slight bit ahead of seasonal sales for last year, about a little less than $2,000. However, what's missing and actually puts our overall total a little bit lower. Last year was our anniversary season, and we did sell special anniversary badges, which were included in the total at that time. So we don't have that $17,000 in anniversary badge sales as we had last year. The lifeguards have been quite busy. It's been pretty nice in terms of beach weather. Through January 10th, they had performed 42 rescues. They also had 5 what they termed EMS activation on beach incidents. There were 23 EMS first responder calls, an additional 116 first aid calls. Very good, very busy group of young ladies and gentlemen, and we're very happy to have them performing good service for us. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Rich. We now have approval of of the minutes without formal reading. Have you had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes, I have.
I have a joint meeting of May 16, 2016, an agenda meeting of May 25th, 2016, an agenda meeting of June 9, 2016, an executive session of June 9, 2016, and a regular meeting of June 13, 2016.
Sherry, the minutes were wonderful. Thank you for your hard work. Is there a motion to?
Motion to accept the minutes as submitted? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, thank you. Ordinance 2016-14C, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 57, 4C, protection of beaches and dunes of the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to regulate the use of dune walkovers. Final reading.
This is the final reading, so at this point, if anybody would like to speak to this ordinance in the public, the floor is open for public comment. If you do have a comment, come forward, state your name and address. Yes.
My name's James Lynch. I'm at 3 Berkeley Avenue in Beach Haven. My concern with this is the fee. This is just, to me, another added tax to people who are already paying a fair amount of taxes, to people who voluntarily gave up the easements to the property, and to people whose dune fencing that was put in at considerable cost after Sandy was just taken out by the borough without any notice at all. So the question is, why should there be another tax and a $100 fee and then a yearly fee for something that's part of the property?
I think one of the reasons for that is just the time it takes to do this. In addition, we do have to inspect it because the town itself isn't regulating this. I mean, we're mandated by the Army Corps and the government as to what can be on dunes. So we had a more liberal dune walkover ordinance, and we were told that we couldn't allow some of the things in it that we had in it. So in order to follow the regulations of the Army Corps, basically we rewrote the ordinance, and we did put in a fee that would cover the cost of hiring somebody extra to inspect.
So that's my point, that it's basically just another tax.
Sorry. Any other comments on the dune walkovers? Okay, in this case, I close the floor to public comment, and do we have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Taxis?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring the expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 156, establishing a flexible benefit plan, section 125. Resolution 157, supporting A1178, S925, municipal dredging of lagoon community waterways. Resolution 158, amending the 2016 professional services appointment for prosecutor. Resolution 159, returning park bonds. Resolution 160, refund of beach badge fees. Resolution 161, authorizing application to the NJDEP for electric vehicle workplace charging grant program. Resolution 162, approving application by the Museum of New Jersey Maritime History for an EDC social affairs permit. Resolution 163, authorizing submission of a raffle application for the Museum of New Jersey Maritime History. Resolution 164, canceling water charges. Resolution 167, resident request for additional handicap parking. Resolution 168, approving change order number 2, dated June 15, 2016. Installation of pilings at Beach Haven Municipal Building, 300 Ingleside Avenue. Resolution 169, returning dumpster bonds. Resolution 170, authorizing the sale of surplus property no longer needed for public use in an online auction, various street signs. Resolution 172, authorizing submission of a raffle application for David's Dream and Believe Cancer Foundation. Resolution 173 is the 2015 audit acknowledgement. Resolution 174 is the 2015 audit corrective action plan. Resolution 175 is authorizing execution of a state aid agreement between the Department of Environmental Protection and the Borough of Beach Haven for construction of the Barnegat Inlet to Little Egg Inlet, Long Beach Island, New Jersey Hurricane and Storm Reduction Project. And finally, 176, releasing curb and sidewalk bond.
Would anybody on council like to remove any of these items for separate discussion?
Yes, I'd like to, 173 and 175.
173 and 175. So should we vote on the resolutions with the exception of those? And then
Sure.
discuss it? So do I have a movement to accept all the resolutions with the exception of 173 and 175?
Motion to approve?
For a second?
Second.
Mr. Katsas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Dickey?
Yes. Okay, 173, the 2015 audit acknowledgement.
Right, I don't know how it worked, Sherry, that, I know there was some of us at the closeout audit meeting, and it says under penalty of law that we acknowledge that everybody on the council was aware of it and signed off on it, so I never knew that they were involved, so I wanted them, were they all involved and read it?
Copies of the audits were made available to every member of council.
And there was a signature list of,
That's on the resolution, yes.
right, so everybody has to sign that?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and then I'd like an explanation of the state aid agreement for for 175. What are we into with this? I mean, I like the idea of having,
This is saying that the federal government's going to pay 100% of our beach replenishment project.
right. The
We're
beach
we're
replenish,
not into it at all. That's the point of this. They're paying 100%. And normally it would have been 90%. But, and we would be responsible for 10%. But they're paying 100% of our beach replenishment. So we're in for nothing. It lets us totally off the hook.
okay, so we just have to authorize the
The execution of the
execution of it,
agreement.
okay.
Well, it's not totally off the hook, Mayor. It does obligate the town in future years when they come out to do some of the restoration work, for us that we then will be liable for a certain portion. of
25%.
that.
It's 25%. And don't they come out, what about every 7 years they're supposed to?
Well, that's what I mean, or in the event of
Another
of
sale.
erosion.
Right.
I mean, I know Harvey Cedars is anxiously awaiting an appropriation to allow them to do some, they've done some restoration work on their own, they're hoping to be reimbursed for. So by doing this, it's obligating us, but it's also obligating them to continue to maintain those dunes.
Okay.
That works both ways.
But it was, that was the deal, it was, it started out
When we
in
started,
perpetuity
right.
Yeah.
and 50 years. But I don't know, did we ever see the document? Right here?
Yeah.
I know, John Basket, did we ever see it? Well, I don't know. That's good down there, I've never read it, so.
Okay.
Well, we can give it to you to read. Now, are you willing to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve resolution 173 and 173?
Start with 171.
173.
Motion to approve?
I second.
Mr. Katsas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Dickey?
Yes. And do we have a motion to approve resolution 175?
Motion to approve, 175?
I second.
Mr. Katsas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Dickey?
Yes. Okay, next is a bills list.
I have a bill list this evening in the amount of $2,643,396.42.
Anybody have any questions on the bills?
Just, I wanted to ask you, we have a bill to Mr. Shackleton for almost $5,000.
Is that the land use?
No. He, part of that had to do with, there were some questions raised relative to some previous work and litigation having to do with the bank building. And it seemed more expedient to use Mr. Shackleton's services since he had prior knowledge rather than bring Mr. Padula up to speed. It involves some additional research, falls back and forth, and after report litigation didn't resolve as a result of it.
Okay. All right, that's the only question.
That's it. A motion to approve the bills?
Motion to approve the bills as submitted?
Second.
Mr. Cactus?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes. Okay, so at this point, we have public comment. And anybody can come forward and express a comment. Come forward to the microphone, state your name and address.
Ed Scythe, 216 4th Street, Beach Haven. Is there any reason why I can't paint the thing in the middle of my sidewalk white so that people stop tripping over it? It's that high off the ground.
I don't know why you couldn't do that.
What's your thing?
But why is it the water meter that's off the
Yeah.
ground?
Oh,
Why don't we call the water meter, the water department and ask them to come and look at it? We've had them fix some of the ones because there have been people
They
tripping.
refixed this one already.
They have.
And
Yeah.
every time there's a high tide, it just pops up again.
Ooh. So maybe we need to address this issue. We can have them come and look at it again. But I don't know why you couldn't put some kind of paint around it.
That's what I want to do.
I mean, does anybody here think that's inappropriate? I mean, I think
I don't think it's inappropriate. I think we should, if it's, where is it? In the sidewalk?
Yeah.
No, I think we should take a look at it.
Well, we
Three of them-
will. Take a
three
look
of them
at
on
it.
the sidewalk. My house, the house on either side of mine. Because we're like the third or fourth houses off the boulevard.
Right.
And when there's a flood tide, it pushes it up.
Right.
Ed, why don't you give Rich your address?
Jackie already has it, she took it down.
And I know they've done it, and maybe there's a chance of moving it. Is there another, I know they put them on the sidewalk because they didn't want to put them on your,
I'd love to have it on the lawn.
so, I mean, we have had people trip on these things, so they can be really dangerous.
They
But
are.
in the interim, if you want to put some, some reflective tape or something around it,
I'm gonna put some,
that would maybe be good, and we will address it,
okay.
see what we can
I'd
do.
love to have it put in the lawn, right in the front lawn.
Yeah, okay.
Because it is dangerous. That's, watched a bunch of kids trip on it last night.
Oh,
So it is,
we had an 80-year-old person trip on one and took a bad fall, and they did fix it. But again, it's popping up because you get a lot of tide there, so.
yeah, every time.
It was really a mistake to put any of them on the sidewalks.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it put in the grass if they can.
Yes,
Okay?
all right.
Thank you
See
very
what we
much.
can do.
What?
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Anybody else would like to come up for a public comment?
May I?
Yes, of course you may. Please state your name and address.
My name is Pat Valva, and I live at 114 Amber Street.
You get a plan?
And I think we had talked at your library meeting. I had spoken to Mr. Crane. I thank you again for the refoliate around the water party, which is 150 feet from my front door. I know that it had not been decided where that was going permanently. And I do appeal on behalf of my neighbors and myself that the position it's in now not be the permanent position. And a couple of reasons came up over the holiday weekend. It's right next to the entrance of the park. Lo and behold, people think you're going to drive in there, park, and go to the bathroom. And so it started on Friday night by gentleman that came in, and it wasn't open, so he couldn't wait. Which is kind of distressing when you're sitting on the porch with your children and your grandchildren. So he urinated up against it. That was Friday night. Saturday, 3 cars entered the park through the entrance. It's
Right.
the location.
Right.
And they parked and went to the bathroom. Now, there's kids playing and ball and kites, and And my children, I'm not very technically savvy, but they all had phones, they got it all. So it's all on video, just for your consideration. My neighbor is trying to sell his house, and the first buyer he had just said, not gonna do it. And my other neighbors are quite distressed. So, when you decide the decision to put it permanently, I know that you put a sewer line in already, so I hope
But
that's.
that doesn't, I did check after we had the meeting at the
Yes.
library. I did talk to Rich about that, and it is plumbed there, but that doesn't mean that's gonna be the permanent location. And that will be decided. I mean, this is gonna be an expensive project, and it'll look nice. They do lock the bathrooms at dark to decrease vandalism, but that is terrible, and I can understand that you and your neighbors would be upset. And I guess we can talk to our chief of police and see if we can have a police officer down there, after, about dusk, to make sure that nobody does this.
Well,
It's
I,
all night, right?
pardon me?
It's all night, it's not very particular. Did you call the police by any chance?
By the time they had finished filming, they were gone. I mean, people go to the bathroom, get in their cars, and they leave.
Well,
And,
if we have a police walk by there more frequently, that might help.
Well, it would, I'm sure, but it's like when they go the wrong way past the angle
I know.
side. Officers do have it more than enough to do
I know.
without checking on public toilets. But I thank you for your consideration, and I do thank you, Mr. Crane, and I thank you, Mayor, for your input at your delightful library meeting.
Thank you.
So anything you can do, I would appreciate, as my neighbors do.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Bill Green. I live at 1713 West Avenue, diagonally across the street. First of all, I don't know if you said anything, but regarding the noise ordinance, when they mow the lawn around here, it happened after 7:30, the last time they did it, so if you said something, I appreciate it.
I did talk to Mr. Crane about that, and I said, some of the neighbors had been complaining, and in addition to that, about mowing the lawn before 7 o'clock here. And I actually, and I meant to bring this up, I have a letter that I just received from somebody else who lives next to the library claiming that they mow the lawn at the library before 7 o'clock. And at the meeting with the mayor, a lot of people did bring up the fact that the borough should be, following their own rules about noise. And I did bring that up with Mr. Crane. And I don't know if he was going to look into it. And but he seemed to think that most of the people that do things like mow the lawn don't start until after the garbage is
Well, it's unusual.
done.
I mean, most of our crew goes out on the garbage trucks first. They get the trash out of town. They report back to the public works yard. And that's generally when we go to cut lawns. It would have to be an unusual occurrence that they would do it. It would
Well,
have
this
something to do
was
with
the
normal.
second time
All right,
Last year it
I'm not
happened
disputing. I'm
again.
out here at 7:30. so,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
6:30 at least
All right.
last year, and about the same time this year.
So but we did address it, and
Yeah,
I
I
know Mr. Crane
appreciate
will
it.
talk to the Public Works
Yeah.
Department, and it's nice to be, said thank you to, because it happened later, but I think that was just.
Well, your meeting was only a week ago, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very much appreciated.
Okay, and I am in the process of writing out answers to all those questions to put up on the website, so,
All right, thank you.
yeah, I got all the answers, I just haven't, I've had family, I haven't had time
I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
to, okay, thank you.
My second issue was this building. We live diagonally across the street. And I'm going to go through a couple of things. First of all, the grounds used to be a lot better, and now the grass is wearing out, it's becoming a dust bowl. That's one thing. And part of that reason is there's cars parked all around instead of parked in the interior of the property. They're all parked on the outside. And they go up the stairs, they're parked over here, they go directly up the stairs because it's an easy access. But frankly, it's an eyesore. And then it becomes a habit of other people coming and parking there during non-hours of this building, of the municipal side of the building. And then there are commercial vehicles where they have a place to park over the weekend. They did it this last holiday weekend. they had a van right over here in the front, sitting there for 3 days. No
On
one
the
coming to get it.
outside of the fence?
On the outside of the fence. And someone told me it was not legal, but it wasn't
It isn't.
ticketed after 3 days, so I don't know what the story is. The third issue is the actual condition of the outside of the building itself. It's two-tone, is one set of paint on one side, another set of paint on the other side, plus it's rotting over here, where you can see the wood and it's rotting away, and nothing's being done. And it's been like that for a couple of years. I brought this up before, but it gets to a point where, you know, I know we're building a new building, and you're gonna say, oh, it's only another year or so. But this has been going on and on and on, and we, you know, we pay taxes, we like to look across the street and see something we're proud of. And frankly, I think it's not just me, but it's a lot of people in the neighborhood that aren't very proud right now of this building.
Well, I did address that, and I talked with Mr. Crane about that in addition.
Yeah.
We did talk about the parking issue, and I talked to some of the people that park there. It sort of started when we were paving the blacktop in here. We had to redo the bulkhead, which was a very expensive project. We have put a lot of money in this building, as I said before.
You
I
said that.
know it is an ugly building, and I know it needs repair, and we're trying to have that happen. Right now, it's difficult because all our public works people are really working many, many hours, but we'll continue working on this. But what happened is people started
This
parking
is
on the
not
black.
the first time I've mentioned this either, and the fact is, nothing's been done.
Yeah, I know, I know that.
And I know money's being
I know
invested
that.
here,
I know.
but
That
not
was-
on the exterior.
Yeah, I know, and it does look, I agree with you, it looks terrible. And we do need to improve it. But the parking situation, just briefly, I did talk to Mr. Crane about that. It seems to me that a lot of our employees, they started parking there when they were doing the bulkhead work, and they couldn't park in here, and then it just became a habit. And I talked to Mr. Crane about it, and it seems like it's not just our employees, but it's people that live in the neighborhood that are pulling up there. So we do need to try to address this and see if there's enough parking for everybody inside the fence.
Like Court Day, I understand, like today, for instance. It was a
Yes.
zoo, but we expect it to be a zoo on Court Day.
Right, it is a zoo,
But other than, I know, but other than that, I mean,
right, there should be
there's
enough
no
parking.
rationale for why they can't park on the inside.
Right,
And why that space could be honored space where no one parks there during the day, or at night for that matter.
and I'm glad you came and brought that up so everybody could hear it. The van that parked out there for 3 days, that is totally against the rules. And at that mayor's meeting, a couple people brought up other vehicles that were parked, and they have moved. Again, I didn't know about that van being there. You really need to call the police when you see a truck or something that's parked there for an extended period of time.
Okay.
They really are not allowed to leave their vehicle there overnight. I think that's what the ordinance says. So you need to call the police when that happens. And all I can say is I think we are aware of the ugliness of the outside of this building and the need for repair, and hopefully we can make it look a little bit better.
Any commitment on your part?
I can't make the commitment personally,
Well, it
but
would be a commitment in the fall, and it's not just slapping a coat of paint on, most of the wood is rotted out.
Right.
We did, a couple of years ago, start it, and we realized how expensive it was. We did do substantial repairs to the entrance here, where water was literally just coming right through the walls. It's an old building, it was in deplorable condition, we took it over, and quite frankly, I mean, our resources are stretched. We'll give it due consideration, but it's not gonna be a cheap project, yeah.
Okay.
I-
I see where this is going,
No, the only comment I would make to that is,
which I appreciate your situation, I do, but go ahead.
I mean, one of the things that we have to face as an organization is what is the long-term plan for this building
That was my next question.
after we move out of here, okay? And right now, it can only be used for emergency management. We can't use it for anything else, and we're sort of here only because of the flood. So the long-term plan is something that I know the mayor and we are discussing right now. One thing we'd like to do is maybe acquire the property, full ownership of the property sometime in the future. And there may be something on the ballot this year that you might want to vote on to help us acquire it, then we can go with the long-term plan.
Okay.
But, you know.
That gives us a little hope.
yeah, him?
No, but it is, it's a long-term plan, but we can't make any decisions right now until we move out of here, and if we get something on the ballot, maybe Green Acres funds and stuff like that require. so.
You're gonna take us up to snuff on that, Mayor?
We're trying to work on it, and actually, I think you told me that you called beyond this, Frank beyond this office, or somebody in the audience. And I did talk to them, and they're gonna come down here and sometime at the end of the month, and hopefully we'll talk further about this, and how we might be able to acquire this. I did suggest to Rich that maybe if we planted some Leland cypresses or some nice looking shrubbery along that fence, it would mute the building, because it is unattractive. I understand, I sympathize with you, because I don't like to sit on my porch and look at ugliness when I spend a lot of money on my house. So I have great sympathy for you. It's just so hard. We do have a limited budget. We don't want to raise the taxes. We're utilizing this as a lot less expensive than having to rent trailers to do business in, which would be even more unsightly than this, I think. But it's sort of a catch-22, as Don's made the comment. We just don't want to dump a huge amount of money in this building at this point until we know we can actually use it for something more than.
Well, if you come up with a plan, it gives us a ray of hope that we can hang our hat on it in the short term, but if you're serious about that, then I'd be interested in following that along.
Okay.
As progress is made.
Okay,
Fair enough?
great.
Okay. Thanks
thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it.
Would anybody else like to come forward? Yes.
Tony Hunter, Marine Street. I wasn't going to say anything, but I've heard two people complain about what they're going to look at, and I'm buried. I live in a bunker because 22 feet above sea level in 1975 was not the same as today. So when Mayor Stewart told me, oh, your house will be fine, my house is not fine. I have nobody to shovel me out this winter when the sand just comes in my front door. So I'll be looking at sand, and I look at sand and it brings tears to my eyes because my lovely home that my parents built is not my lovely home. And my love for LBI, where I met my husband and the children grew up, is not my love anymore. I hope it comes back. And it saddens me because I didn't know.
What's your address again?
One Marine.
Oh, you're one Marine. Okay.
Yeah, when they came to measure, they told me my house it was measured at 19 feet above sea level.
Okay.
But when the Army Corps came Memorial Day weekend, which was just a lovely time for us, it was 16 and a half feet above sea level. And when we went to our meeting in September that we had, and it was at the Historical Society,
Oh, yes.
we spoke about how high it would go above the pavilion. And it is above the pavilion. And at that time, we said it wasn't going to be above the pavilion. In fact, even Chris Constantino from the Army Corps heard that conversation. And he said, oh, yeah, I heard it, but, you know, the borough didn't really mean to say that. So please don't complain, because if you want to complain, come see my house. I have no house. My front door is a pile of sand. That being said, now, I cry, because I've been crying ever since Memorial Day weekend when I was going to be arrested for being on the dunes. And my mom's last words were, I can't believe I could see this beautiful view again. Oh, so now it's nothing. Anyhow, I wanted to ask about the ordinance about putting a walkway over. Who can I talk to about the exact rules of that at the condominium? Because I could put a little walkway maybe over the dune. And I have the ordinance, I've read it. I just want to know for sure, because I don't want to do it and then be sued or brought back or
That's
something
it.
else happen.
That's the for sure, what you have, the ordinance is it.
Do I just have to ask for a permit and it's $75 a year, and do I need a survey, like there's so many?
You don't have to have it, you don't have to go through CAFRA, or if you're a business or something like that, you have to go through CAFRA. You don't have to do that. The one thing you can't do is you can't cut into the dune. You
Right,
can't,
I know that, you have to put
dig
something
it
that
out.
that
You
you
can't-
can lift over and bring
Yes.
back.
yes.
And the other question is, I've had two different stories about dune planting. I heard from the Army Corps, since they were right, I can show you my videos, right in front of my door. From where I'm standing to where you are, that's where my dune is, and that's where the tractors were. They said they were gonna do the dune planting in November. They were gonna do plantings, but then there was an article in the paper this week that said we were going to plant, because I was the captain for Marine Street when I
Right.
did the planting, we were gonna plant on the west side of the dune, and they were gonna plant in March.
They're,
I'm confused.
well, they're gonna plant sometime in the winter. When they need, when they planted the last bit, which was 13th Street North, they did that in, I believe it was the beginning of April. And it did very well because we had a lot of rain and the weather was good. But they have to make sure that the weather's right so these plants survive. So it could be any time from November to April when they're gonna plant. They're gonna come in and do dune grass all over the dune. They'll plant the east side of the dune, the top of the dune, and some of the west side of the dune. But dune grass doesn't survive very long on the west side of the dune. It's basically, it has about a 3-year longevity on the west side. In order for dune grass to survive, it needs a sea spray. It needs that saltwater sea spray. And if you look at the dune planting we did in town, a lot of streets like where I am on 2nd Street, a lot of that dune grass has died. I mean, some of it's coming back. The dune planting town thing, because you were, as you said, you were a street guy, we are going to purchase shrubbery like bleach plums and bayberries, and we're hoping to have some of those. We're going to try to stagger it to increase the longevity of it, and we're going to purchase those, putting in an order for it now, and do some planting probably in October of the shrubbery. And we figured we lost a lot of the shrubs that we planted the last time, and although I noticed that things are coming up, little bits of bayberry, and beach plums, and we're gonna take the humus and the peat, and then we're gonna get these little pellets that hold water in, and we're gonna mix it all together, and then help everybody plant it so it's planted just right to increase the survivability of these plants. Because we figured last time we did it, everybody, we told them what to do. We said mix the peat and the humus, and the humus, and do it this way. And we think a lot of people didn't put enough of the humus in, and that's why some of the plants didn't last as well. So we're going to try to pre-mix everything and then make sure people get the right mixture when they plant. So we sort of have a strategy for the fall, and but we can't really do much until the end of October because.
So my question is, do we expect those tractors again to come because they're going to be on my deck? Like, are they coming in November? Is that what I'm expecting, or will they be here?
Oh, the Army Corps people.
Army Corps people.
I'm not sure. It depends on when they can get the dune grass. They could come anytime between November and April. I don't
Because the
think
article
it's,
said March, and that's why I was confused.
they did it, well, they've been saying March when, I have a meeting tomorrow, I asked them again. They've been saying March the last time I talked to them, but as I said, what they did on 13th Street North was in April.
Right, that's,
Yeah.
I spoke to someone up there, and that's what they told me.
So, a lot depends, I mean, they have to procure this grass, it's a lot of grass. And the shoots of grass have to be grown in other places. And a lot of, I think, the reason they waited to April was they just didn't have access to enough grass to plant. And I might be wrong in this, but I think that was part of the reason they planted then. It worked out quite well because of the weather. It cooperated with all the rain and everything, the grass is very beautiful.
Light spring,
Yeah. So we can't really, we don't have any control over that.
all right, but won't see the trucks in November.
But I'm going to the meeting tomorrow and I'll ask him again what the projection is for the planting of the grass. I really can't, I don't think it's written in stone. But the only thing, it should definitely be here before next summer.
Okay.
And it'll look a lot nicer when it's there.
Not where I am.
No?
So please don't complain. Come to me.
Different issues.
Different issues, but the value of my home is nothing, and how I live is pathetic, so.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Yes.
Susan Green, I'm at 1713 West Avenue, right across the street. So I have a completely different issue. It's actually an observation about Bay Avenue and a suggestion. We walk uptown with our dog a lot and we play tennis at the tennis court and municipal courts. And quite frequently, just for an example, we'll cross from the tennis courts to get coffee at Pearl Street Market, and there is such confusion by both motorists and pedestrians what to do at a crosswalk that we've seen, like, for example, today, a car stopped for us one way. We get halfway in the street, the car coming the other way doesn't stop, but the car coming behind the fellow that stopped almost rear-ended him. And then we've seen a couple incidents where pedestrians or people on bikes that are waiting, they don't know, should they get in the street, shouldn't they? So my suggestion is, in certain towns, well, several towns in Bergen County, but for example, Ridgewood and Westwood, they have like a traffic cone, and it has a sign that just says something, state law is stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk. So we don't need, they don't need it at the crosswalk where there's a traffic light, but I think it would send a good signal, even if they did it at the one at Pearl Street, because that's the first crosswalk, I believe, coming north on Bay Avenue. And then like one or two just when you're into Beach Haven. I just think for safety's sake, it might avoid a pedestrian being hit by a car or an accident.
You know, this has been a huge, everywhere I go, and I totally agree. Jim is more, we have talked about this, and we did talk about those cones, which or those sandwich boards that they put in the street that
It's
says,
gotta be very inexpensive,
Yeah.
and I think it would send a good signal for other things, like maybe if people saw those, they'd say, gee, this is a law-abiding town, and I can't make a U-turn to get into a parking space in front of Murphy's.
oh, somebody almost ran into me doing that.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's just my suggestion. I mean, I hope you take me up on it because I think it would just send a good signal about Beach Haven.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. Jim, Jim's good. He's good at, gets that stuff done.
Hey Jim, maybe we can put we have a flashing light in town, we announce things.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put a little message on that too, pedestrians own the walkway, so when people drive right into town, they have a flashing light, and they stop at a red light and they see.
Well, what annoys me is though, we have a lot of traffic lights in town, like there's one on Center Street, Ingleside, Third Street, and I mean, when I'm walking across the street, I wait till they turn red to go across. But because of traffic, but I see pedestrians just, the light turns green and they just walk. I mean, they have to sort of obey the traffic lights too. And then I ride my bike a lot, so I was riding to Holgate the other day, and bikes are supposed to go with traffic, and walkers and runners against traffic. So I'm with the riding, doing it right, I'm trying to make an effort to do it right, and somebody starts yelling at me, you should be going against the traffic, and I'm like, oh man. So I just think there's so much confusion in understanding these rules. It's like crazy. If people have this idea that, I don't know, but we'll work on it.
We're going to talk
Yeah.
about the bike.
Yeah, definitely. The bike situation's difficult because we have bike lanes and everybody's going the wrong way in the bike lane. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Yes?
Mary Ann Holden, 502 Dock Road. Does anyone have any status on the houses on Dock Road? The house alongside of me, the lot across the street from me? Are they sold? Are they in auction? Are they bankrupt?
Well, I heard the house next to you was in foreclosure. That's all I know. And the parking lot, the Danny Amy parking lot across the street, that one, he owns that. I don't
Does he own it or does his sister own it?
That's a good question. I don't really know.
Because my next question was, when Mr. Burris was here the one meeting, he mentioned about the house was knocked down over there and it looked just like Morrison's. No, it doesn't. There's stagnant water in that lot. The weeds are higher than I am. The boats are garbage boats. There was somebody there at the beginning of the week. They had 3 wave runners. They were trying to put them in the lot. And there's a guy throwing up all over the lot. I mean, I'm not talking dry heaving, disgusting. Because I was in my kitchen and I
Was this in the middle of the daytime?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And I can go on with my nightmare stories, but it doesn't seem to help me. Now, if the house alongside of me is in foreclosure or being auctioned, the kids must be aware of it, because there's a sign on the building saying if you have a problem, call a certain phone number. Well, it became a big party. Everybody's peeing there, especially on teen night.
Well, I think you need to call, if you see somebody peeing there, you should definitely call the police immediately.
Yeah, but you know, like, one young lady said, you cool, but by that time, they're gone. They're out of there, and those kids can run faster than anybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're sending the cops on a wild goose chase, so to speak.
No, it's not just that, Mary. Once these things become like an accident-prone condition, or that house may be now targeted by the young people. So if there's enough police calls to it, they'll make a special assignment to make, more patrol there at that particular times.
Okay, so, all right, and then also there's like really no progress being made on Dock.
You know what?
There's no progress being made on Dock Road. That lot is disgusting. I've been here before complaining about it. We might as well just rent that lot out to the Zika mosquitoes because of the stagnant water in there. It's like a swamp.
This is.
I mean, I know I'm here.
You're talking about the lot with the
The lot
boats.
or the
With the
house?
boats, with the boats, and the house would be the urinal.
The house is
The house is
definitely derelict. I mean, it looks derelict to me.
Well, it was even when it was occupied by tenants.
Right.
Hey, Rich, we have the abandoned property law. I know we're addressing it for commercial properties. Can we start addressing it for residential properties now? Can we start coming up with a listing of the abandoned properties, especially the one, start with Dock Road, start with those properties, and get, who's the one person that's handling that for us? Jim Kelly. Let's start having Jim focus on Dock Road, the abandoned property ordinance, and start contacting those owners if they have abandoned properties. I mean, that's the very first thing that.
Well, I know Jim has had dialogue with the bank.
The bank actually is in foreclosure of that property, so that's,
But that doesn't relieve them of the
No.
responsibility of keeping the property neat and clean. And let's be a little bit more forceful with them and with all those property owners, if they're abandoned
Well, they
properties.
did come and cut the weeds, I gotta give them that credit. But now, like I said, you've got the situation with the kids, I guess they see that sign, they see what a derelict it is, and they think, okay, they go in between the properties and they.
Well, that's a police matter.
that, you've got to call, you've got to just keep calling the cops and calling the cops. And
Yeah,
just put them on
doesn't
speed
like
dial.
me already, now I gotta work on the cops not liking me.
No, but I mean, just go and speed dial, and, I mean, because I understand this, because I lived in a neighborhood that used to be really noisy, and I never wanted to call the cops on people. And, but if they don't have a record that somebody called, then it's like it never happened. And if you call and they put it in their logbook, they can say, well, there's been 10 calls on this house and that then that gives it more of a status as a nuisance, and it gives us more teeth to do something.
Good enough, thank you.
Jim taught me that.
That I believe.
Anybody else want to come forward? Okay, so I will close the floor to public comment, and now we're on remarks by council, Jim.
Well, I want to say that, I don't know if anybody knows that Councilman Keeler's family was in a very bad accident over the weekend. His daughter was in a coma for a while, he was hit head on. The car in front of him was his son, he got sent into the woods 5 or 6 times in a tumbling accident. They fared fairly well, but his daughter was following right behind and got hit head on. And they're in Jersey Shore, and it's getting a little bit better. There's been numerous operations. He's very happy with Jersey Shore. So we all want to just, send out our prayers and thoughts to the Keeler family.
And all the grandchildren were in the car, but they're okay.
Yeah.
That's what I understand.
Right, and that's all I have.
So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Mr. Cactus.
Just reiterate about Bob Keeler's family, keep praying for him. Lighter note, people have asked me how much does the beach replenishment cost the town. The town's nothing was the cost of municipal government. The federal government is $138 million. So they spent $138 million from the north end of the island out to the south end. That was the value that we're not paying anything for. So just for informational purposes, people had asked, that's $138 million. That's it.
I have no comments at this point, but I am writing up everything, the questions everybody asked. I have researched them. And so look on the website. Oh, and another thing, I hope this gets out to the public. We're going to be sending out email blasts so that lots of people just don't tune into the website, every couple days. But if they get an email, they'll read it and get some news. And so we need your permission to send you an email. So you sort of have to sign up somewhere, like if you come into Borough Hall, anybody in television land, they can do the same thing, and you'll get an email so you'll know what's going on. For example, we're auctioning off old signs of the street names, like Angleside and Amber and so on. And that these signs have been removed to be replaced with the ones with the green backgrounds. And this auction is going to start on the 28th of, it's going to be an online auction. It's going to be 10 days. And I just think it's kind of exciting. Somebody might really want the street sign in their house that they can actually hang up in a room. So keep that in mind. But these are the kinds of things you'll be able to find out on the web blast, as well as other, if people ask me questions, I do try to answer them, and it's a way I can communicate. If you can sign up with your name and email address, that'd be great. We can get this email blast thing going. That's it. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for